Hi everyone, we're here with Randy Milkovisch of AIM Custom Homes, answering all of your questions about building a new construction home. Randy, let's start with a little bit about you. How long have you lived in Houston?
Well, I was born and raised in Houston. I've been here my entire life, and third generation Houstonian.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So both my parents went to Heights High School, which was Reagan, and
Oh, wow.
so yeah, they're both from the Heights area, and we live out in Cypress at this point. But yeah, been here all my life.
Yeah.
So, how did you get started in the home building business?
Well, I started out doing larger scale flips, additions, remodels, customer jobs. And I've been doing that for a long time. And a few years back, a partner came and introduced himself to me as a new home builder and offered me a position to build a new construction project in the Heights. And so I decided to partner with him, and I ended up managing a good portion of that project. And at that point, I realized new construction was the way to go, because coming from a larger scale remodel and addition background, new construction is a lot easier and simpler.
Process.
It is a very smooth process.
You don't have to start
compared to remodels.
Yeah.
So yes.
And how has your background in remodeling kind of shaped how you're able to develop floor plans for your new construction? Does it help you be a little bit more thoughtful?
Right. Yeah. So, when you're doing remodel projects for customers, generally speaking, you get to deal with them on a daily basis, in addition to their designers and architects. And when you get to go through that process with them and you get to be involved in that process with them, you kind of get to know what works in a home. And so that process has really taught me about functionality and just about the process in making a home as functional as possible.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Are there certain areas in Houston that you typically build in?
So I generally build in the Heights area, Timber Grove, Lazy Brook, Oak Forest. I've done several projects in those areas, but generally speaking, I try and stay north of I-10 if I can, just for to keep my work area concise and so that I can visit most of the projects on a daily basis.
And you've kind of built a little niche in Sunset Heights, right?
I have. I've actually built, going to build the third coming up in on the same street in Sunset Heights on 26th. Go ahead.
So, what do you like the most about Sunset Heights?
So Sunset Heights is an amazing area. There's so much growth potential over there. There's a lot going on up and down Airline with Caninos. And a number of years back, the Whole Foods was brought in over there. So the growth and the appreciation in that area is amazing. There's a lot of good supply around in that area.
Right.
The lot sizes are nice in there for building, and so there's a lot of versatility. And just being in the Heights area in general, there's so much you can do. I mean, there's so many different plans that you can build, and there's just a lot of variety.
Yeah.
Speaking of variety, do you have like a certain aesthetic or style of building that you like to veer towards?
Yeah, sure. So I like, kind of mid-century modern craftsman style homes. And so generally I like to kind of keep with the era if I can. For example, the new construction projects that I've done recently, I build them all on pier and beam.
Right.
And so that maintains the original look of the Heights, so with the crawl space. And so I really think that the curb appeal and the overall look is something that fits that area well.
Right, and you really try to strive on maintaining the historical integrity of the neighborhoods, which is great.
I try to, sure, it's funny when I acquire a property, almost always there's a house there.
Right.
And so if I can do it, I'll move that house to another property, sell it to someone, and try and maintain that home. On the off chance that I can't do that, generally what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll harvest as much of the materials The original doors, the original floors, the windows are worth money,
Right.
and you know they have historical value.
Yeah.
And so I have some friends that are in the historical restoration business, and so I usually just pass that stuff off to them. And then that's again if I can't keep that house and just move it to
Right.
another property.
Do you occasionally use elements of the houses that are on the property in your current builds?
Absolutely.
That's really special.
No,
Yeah, no, it's super cool because it's
Yeah.
kind of like from the original home that was there,
Right.
probably.
Yeah. So one thing my wife tells me a lot is, you know, you always put these clawfoot tubs in these bathrooms, in these master bathrooms that you do, and that's true. And so, you know, I consider it a gem if I
Right.
can go into a historical home and they have an original clawfoot tub that's in good shape, and even if it's really not in good shape.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taken clawfoot tubs out of fields that were, you know, used for, you know, cattle to drink out of.
Oh, wow.
So literally I've taken those things, and there's a company that I use that restores them completely for me, and so I, you know, that's kind of my little piece on
Right.
that. In addition to that, you know, when we harvest the flooring out of some of these homes, we can use that as feature pieces, a ceiling, for example. And the last one I did, we took some of the shiplap that was in the home, and that shiplap, we used it on one of our stair railings.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
so
awesome.
we didn't even remove the old nails
Yeah.
and everything. We just kind of make sure that it was
Yeah.
clean and that it was safe. But yeah, so I really like to kind of put a historical touch even on the new construction if that's possible.
Well, I think that's really unique.
Yeah.
What else do you think kind of sets you apart from other custom home builders?
Well, I think you know, attention to detail is something that I pride myself on. You know, I have a family, 3 children and a wife, and you know, my time is very important.
Yeah.
And my time with them is very important. And so, my goal in getting into business for myself was to be able to manage my time in such a way that I could spend time with my family and I could still enjoy the fruits of my labor. And so I really enjoy spending time with them. So I say that to say that I don't spend a lot of time getting a lot of customers and overwhelming myself where I can't maintain all of the projects that I've got going. I don't try and spread myself too thin.
Yeah. Let's talk about the process of building a new home.
Sure.
So what is your typical process?
So it really depends. So if I'm building a spec, generally, you know, I'm involved in the process from start to finish.
Okay.
And so from the acquisition of the lot to the planning of the home to the design selection, I have a piece in all of that. Obviously, I manage the project start to finish. And you know, I really enjoy the process of the acquisition. I enjoy the process of the design selection and the architectural selection and you know, fitting a particular house on a lot and working through the functionality of that house. And you know, once all of that's done and we're through the city in terms of the permitting process, you know, it's project management at that point. And so you know, I try and focus on staying on top of each project, visiting every day or every other day if possible, and just making sure that everything goes smoothly. You know, I try and build a home as if I'm building it for myself and my family, you know? And so sometimes I'll tell my subs the same thing when we're talking. You know, I'll say, look guys, you know, build this like you were building it for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, craft this home the way you would craft it if you were going to be living here.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I'm brought a client from, say, you guys, and somebody comes and they say, okay, we have this lot that we're interested in building on, you know, that process can vary a little bit because it depends on whether or not that person has their own architect, has their own design put together, has everything. You know, sometimes people bring me a package and it's got a bow on it and they say, okay, this is it, we're permitted, we're ready to
build
go,
it.
let's just go build. And that makes it a little bit easier on that end. But yeah, I enjoy the process from start to finish in any capacity, whether I'm building a spec or whether I'm building a custom for a customer.
And a spec home is really just something that you're building without a client already in mind, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
And then how long, typically, I know it varies wildly, from the time you've closed on the lot, you own it, to the time you probably finish that home and are ready for someone to move in?
So generally the process can take up to a year,
Okay.
but it can be quicker. The build time on the last one that we finished and closed in January was about 7 months, but that didn't actually include the time for acquisition,
Right.
closing, planning, and so that permitting, right. And so that entire process took about 9-10 months altogether, but it can take up to a year. Now on a custom, that process can vary in terms of time frame because it really depends on the customer.
Right.
And it depends on, you know, the changes that they want to
Exactly.
make. And, you know, if they want to kind of design it as they go, that's a little bit of a bumpy ride. So, but I try and make it as smooth as possible because I've been through it enough time with customers where I can work with them and sort of help them in the right direction if possible, and then, you know, again, work closely with their architects and their designers and make their dream come true.
So let's say we have a buyer who loves the idea of getting into one of your homes. You have no listings available. Do they have any options? Would they need to go find their own lot? Could they work with you on lot selection?
Right.
You know, are there options for them at that point?
Right. I mean, if they're just starting from scratch, generally I would say that's kind of where you guys would come in. So you guys would assist them generally in finding the lot in the area that they want to be in, schools, you know, area, whatever. And then once they've identified an area, I can help in lot selection. And the way that I can help you guys and the clients in lot selection is by lot size and location, corner, interior. And those are going to kind of depend on what they want, right?
The house,
and so
you know how the house is going to fit on
So
the
in the Heights in particular, you've got streets with good alley access, with not so good alley access, with no alley access, and so those things all sort of kind of determine this overall design and layout of the home, because you want to be able to maximize the functionality of that lot based on its characteristics.
So we get a lot of feedback from new home builders when they're looking at specs that they're very cookie cutter. Yours are not cookie cutter. Can you kind of explain what goes through your process?
Okay, sure. So each home that I've built, whether it be a full gut remodel addition or new construction, I go through the process of designing the structure, the home for the lot. And so I want to maximize as much as I can on that lot, and I also want to make sure that they have yard space and that they have, you know, full functionality. But you know, everyone is different. Right.
And what happens? You're in the build process. Surely something at some point will potentially go wrong.
No.
Let's
in construction,
For
let's
sure.
just say
Never.
hypothetically something was installed incorrectly, or there, you know, supply chain issues caused huge delays. I think we saw that a lot last year. You know, what are some of the ways that you kind of handle those hiccups with your clients?
Sure. So we're seeing that right now, and so we've got, you know, issues with lumber pricing, issues with allocation. And allocation is just how the suppliers are allowing different builders to receive materials and what's availability. As long as the builder is keeping their thumb on the pulse of the market, and, you know, we're cognizant of what's going on with, you know, high-end appliances are a 6-month lead time. You know, 3-month lead time. That line is drawn in the sand, for example. Lumber is an issue, or this particular granite or stone is an issue. Then we can plan around those things. As long as we know about them, we can plan around those things and hopefully, you know, kind of steer the customer to a selection that's available.
Right.
And that's not generally a difficult process. But to your original question, if something goes wrong, well, the simplest answer is that we just, you know, we fix it and move on. And so it's just as simple as that.
Everything's
we make
fixable,
it right?
It's
Everything is
all money,
construction.
but everything's fixable.
That's right. So that's generally not a problem.
What do you think the biggest misconception is about building a new home?
Well, I think from a customer standpoint, from a home buyer standpoint, it's that it is a intimidating and difficult process, and that doesn't necessarily have to be true. I mean, depending on the builder, and depending on the architect and the designer, and depending on their willingness to work the process with the experts that know what they're doing, it can actually be a very fun and exciting process. Some people go through the process of building a new home once in their lives, and so, you know, they're dealing with a team of people that do it for a living, that do it all the time. And so trusting in that process and trusting those people and relying on them to make decisions, while having the freedom to you know, make their decisions based on, you know, the options given, can make it a very fun process, in my opinion. I mean, I enjoy working with people generally, and I enjoy working with architects and subcontractors, and you know, I keep the same crews, and I've used the same guys for a long time, so I enjoy the process.
And you're always kind of building as if you're building for yourself.
I am, you know, and I tell my guys too, you know, sometimes, you know, when I go in and if we're having a challenging situation, or, you know, when they first come into the job on a trade, I say, you know, listen guys, let's build it like you're gonna live here. You know, build it like you were building your own home.
Have that, you know, integrity and the quality.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the pride.
And the pride.
Sure. I mean, and there's quality control in a couple of different aspects. Number one is me, right? So I'm going to be watching everything that they do. And then, you know, in the city of Houston, which is almost exclusively where I build, you know, we got the city of Houston inspection process. And so, you know, we've got a couple of things to keep check on the quality throughout the process.
So I'm just curious about one thing. When you talk about the inspection process, because I don't think a lot of people who build homes understand that. Don't you go through like 20 something city inspections during the process?
Yeah, and so I don't know the exact count, but it's probably up there. You know, there are multiple inspections, especially during the beginning of the process, right? For foundation, there are multiple inspections. For framing, there are multiple inspections. You know, rough MEPs, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing. They all have their own individual inspections, insulation, and so there are a number of inspections and controls, right? And so those are all dictated by the current codes that are in place at the time. And so, you know, once the plans get through the city, everything is approved, and for the most part, you know, as long as we're building to the plan, and you know, you have a good relationship with the inspectors, and you're doing what's right, you're not going to have any problems. But a lot of people think that's an intimidating process, meeting with inspectors and dealing with inspectors, and it's really not. Actually, it's a way to make sure that everything is going well, in addition to the quality controls that you have in-house.
Well, speaking of quality controls, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that buyers make when undertaking a new construction home, and how can they avoid some of those pitfalls?
Sure. I think one thing that people do is set unrealistic expectations in terms of time frame, sometimes in terms of budget overall. You know, they want you know,
a champagne diet on a beer budget.
Well, you said it, but
there's a lot of those in this market right now.
And so, you know, another thing is making the right lot selection, right? And so if your needs are, you need 4,000 feet, you know, let's try to not find something that's a 2,500 square foot lot, or you know, let's try and work with the available lots in the area to accommodate the needs that you have. And so
so I think level setting expectations up front is probably very important for you and for the buyers.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing is more important.
And we also find, I mean, in all the new construction homes that all the builders we represent, it's really important to interview the builder and understand who you're dealing with, because it is a person-to-person business. It's not, you're going to work with this person every day or at least every week, and you need to really get along. And
it has to be a good fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it is vitally important for the client and the builder to get along. And it's also very important for the builder to be able to maintain a relationship with the client's other architects and designers and the other people that are contributing to the project.
Exactly.
At the same note, as a builder and as a remodeler, I'm interviewing the clients as they're interviewing me, and so, there are times when, the situation may be where we agree that it may not be a good fit.
Right.
Most of the time, though, I think that as long as the project works and as long as the budget works and all the other pieces fall into place, I generally don't have a lot of problems with clients at all.
And we should say too, it's probably best to find a builder who has experience building in the area that you're interested in, because there are differences in building codes, I think, deed restrictions, things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so another piece to that is, generally in the Heights, there's not really much in terms of HOA, and, you can kind of build what you want over there.
Outside of the historical districts.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Outside of the historical district. Yeah. And so, but when I do get into an area where I'm building for a customer and they have an HOA, for example, most of those HOAs have an architectural committee, and those architectural committees will forward their expectations and their restrictions and everything over, and then we'll resubmit a set of plans, all the selections, the elevations, the colors, and so on and so forth, and make sure that everything is okay with them, get their approval, and then we can move on. And that process is just, it's another box that you have to check throughout the process. And then, in some areas that box is just not there. So,
Well, I've been through a build where somebody did not check with the HOA, and we had to take the house off.
That's a problem.
And the builder did not want to take responsibility for it. So it's good that it's great that you are the one that takes responsibility for that, because ultimately you're the one building. So
right. And I help them through that process.
That's good. Yeah.
So do you stay in touch with your buyers after closing?
I do. I'd say I try to. Because I build mainly in the same areas, I see some of the same people over and over. And it's not just the clients, the buyers, it's the neighbors, right? And so, I try and maintain a relationship with the customer, the buyer, and the neighbors also, because keeping the neighbors happy is very important. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So when I acquire a lot for a new build, or when I start a larger scale remodel, I'll generally introduce myself to most of the neighbors that are in the immediate area, and that works in a couple of different ways. Number one, it allows them to give me a call if something's going on. If they don't like some loud music, or if they don't like somebody that's parking in front of their house, and so on and so forth. And everybody's got their different expectations. Some people you'll never hear from and they don't care. And then the other thing is that, if there's a van loading materials at midnight, I'll get a call and, hey, your fence is broken and there's some guys out there. And so that's important
additional
as well.
Security.
Yeah, it is. And maintaining those relationships is amazing. And, the fun part for me is those neighbors and those clients see the entire process, right? And so these are all potential future clients, right? And so at the end of the process on a spec, in an open house, a lot of those people will come by. They'll visit.
Sure, they want to.
They'll walk in with their family and they'll say, "Wow, this is amazing. Thank you for."
They get to see the finished product.
Exactly. And so, I show them around and I give them a tour, just like they were going to come in and buy the house, and I've actually gotten some customers in that way, showing them the home, and they're like, well, we don't necessarily want this house on that lot, but we like this house, we want to build it over there. And so, it is important to maintain a relationship with the past buyers and also the neighbors. The buyers can also give you feedback, because while you try and design as much as you can for functionality and for use, you'll receive 6 months later, I can say, well, what's working for you well?
Right.
What do you really love? What is something that you would have maybe changed if you had it to do all over again? And taking that that feedback and redlining those plans can help me in the future.
So they just get better and better.
That's correct.
Right.
So functionality wise, like, hey, I don't like that little nook, or I want that nook bigger, or, anything about the house, I can take and just sort of, pack it away and use it for future.
Yeah, and I think it's good for buyers to know that while most builders do offer some type of warranty on their product, you really do try to stay in touch, and you're there for them in case anything were to come up.
Right.
And you're very quick to address. I think one of the first stories you told me when I met you was that you just happened to be driving by one of your houses and didn't like the way something looked and went in and fixed it.
I did. I remember that. And, and just to touch on the warranty very quickly, so on the remodel projects that I do, especially the larger ones with additions and the new construction projects, I have a warranty company called 210. And so they provide an insurance-backed structural-based warranty. Okay. So it's a very thorough, very good warranty, and I provide that up front to any potential clients, both remodel and new construction. So that's available, and I think it's even on my website.
Yeah, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Randy, for spending time with us today. I hope you guys enjoy getting to know Randy. If you have any other questions about the new construction process or any other real estate related questions, reach out to us. Until next time, see you guys later.
Bye. Okay. What do you think the biggest misconception is about building a new home?
Wait, sorry, I was still laughing when you started
Okay.
that.
Biggest misconception is about building. Okay, just scratch that. I was actually using the right words. Please tell me that didn't cut off.
It didn't. Okay, great.